Hi, Misty Cabanis here. So I want to go over and give some education and some clarity around the buyer broker agreement. This is something that is now mandatory for every buyer that's working with a real estate agent that has to be in place before you go out and look at properties. This also includes if your agent is going to be showing you properties through some sort of technology, such as FaceTime or by video of some sort, something like that. We have to have this agreement in place. And also, if you are looking at new construction, prior to going to look at the property, this agreement has to be in place. So I just want to give some clarification around this because there are some misconceptions of what this is about. And so let's go over this. First of all, so the agreement is going to be between the broker and the consumer. So the broker is going to be, for instance, in my case, my broker is going to be the brokerage I work for, which is EXP. So this would not have my name on here. This would have the consumer's name and my brokerage, which is EXP Realty. And typically, the term would start from the time you start talking to your agent and getting your lender in place and things like that. You want to have this in place certainly before you go look at properties. And the dates, some people find properties right away, or you already have something picked out. But in the event that it does take a little bit longer, probably give yourself an extra 30 to 45 days on here, time frame to look for properties. Property type, typically we're talking about residential location. Generally, I just put Central Florida on here. So this part's going to be talking about the broker, the broker's obligations and within this. And when we start breaking this down, you'll see that all of this stuff is really just basic common sense. The broker is going to be professional in their knowledge and their skills. I mean, that's the first thing that it says there. The consumers, what this is really talking about right here is that if you are going to look at a property on your own, a for sale by owner, or go into a new construction, that you let them know that you are working with a real estate agent and that you are in a broker agreement. Fair Housing Act, we all have to abide by the fair housing laws. And then it gets down here to the consumer obligations and providing the necessary documents to third party vendors such as lenders and closing agents, which is title companies, and that you're just going to provide us in a timely manner, that you're going to provide us with the information that's needed to get the transaction going. And there's also, talking about that there's not going to be any sort of discrimination against race, color, religion, sex, handicap. And another one right here that is that I always like to point out when we're looking at especially resale homes is to keep in mind that nowadays homes have ears and eyes. So if there's sometimes there can be recording devices, whether it's a ring at the door or something like that. So we want to be mindful when we're looking at homes, and we don't want to be walking around and saying, what it is we want to offer to on the property as far as price point or terms or anything. So we want to make sure we do those types of conversations away from the home because of those devices. So now we're going to get into the meats and potatoes of it. Everybody wants to know, what's this going to cost me, that type of thing. So retainer fee, if you're working with me, I don't have a retainer. Compensation. Compensation is paid to the broker. I remember we talked about the broker. In this case, my broker is eXp Realty. Compensation is not paid directly to an agent. And for this purpose, for new construction, the builder is usually pays all or a portion. Actually, they usually pay all of the agent's compensation. They already have that factored in. And a big misconception, some people think, oh, well, if I go to a builder and I don't have an agent, then they can just take that off the price of the property. They cannot do that in the world of real estate. That is actually illegal. So don't walk in thinking that, oh, I don't have an agent, I can save the 3% or whatever it's going to be on the property. That's not the case. In the event that we are working with a resale property, it is still customary in Florida that sellers are paying a portion, if not all, of the compensation to the buyer's agents, just like the builders are. And if they're not, then what we do is we just come back and we just renegotiate that. It's real estate. Everything is negotiable. Protection period, it has in here 30 days. We'll go ahead and leave it at 30 days. And termination. Hey, I'm not going to hold you to an agreement. If for some reason we decide we want to break up, I certainly don't want to be working with someone who doesn't want to work with me. Likewise, just send me something in an email and just saying you'd like to terminate the agreement, and we will go our separate ways. The dispute resolution, all this says right here is if there's any type of dispute with this agreement, that we would go to arbitration first, because nobody wants to go to court and spend a bunch of court fees and attorney fees. So we will decide that outside of court. Assignment, and this says that the broker may assign this to another broker, which would be an agent, which is basically what is already happening. Because even though it says broker and it says eXp Realty, I'm the agent. I will also initial this down here. So essentially they are assigning that. Now we get into agency, which is single agent or consent to transition to transaction. So basically, this would be single agent. And again, you can read right here where it's all just basically common sense. But basically, if I was going to represent you on one side of the transaction, that's what this would be in the event. And this would be more for resale. If I was the listing agent and you came on as the buyer and I represented the seller as the listing agent and then also represented you as the buyer, so we don't have to have a separate agreement. This just allows us to transition into that role. And again, it's all self-explanatory right here. Dealing, it's just common sense. So this agreement has to be in place prior to your agent taking you out to look at property. So I hope that simplifies things. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You have my contact information, and I hope this information was helpful.